Hey, and we're back in the city of Yharnam. So in the last episode I was in Hemwick. I took on the Witch of Hemwick, got the Carol Rune tool which will prove very useful later on down the line, and I upgraded my axe to +6. In this episode I'm actually going to head up down to Old Yharnam. Now you'll notice straight away that I'm actually wearing Gascoigne's garb. Not only is this garb really cool looking with a long jacket and a hat, but it also has a very high poison resistance. And as most of you will probably know, we're going to be taking on the Blood-starved beast at the end of Old Yharnam, and that boss has a very dangerous poison attack, so it's going to be very useful. Personally, I really like the garb generally. Like I said, I think it's really cool, and I'd probably keep it on for most of the game, just because it has quite a few good resistances. I think the only weak point, I think, off the top of my head, is its frenzy resistance, which is not really that good, but I can't remember. I'll check later anyway. But anyway, it's really cool and it's going to work for this fight, so we're going to use it. So regarding the lore of Old Yharnam, I really want to stick to two lore notes that we actually see in the actual game itself, and basically talk about what those tell us. Now the first one you actually find in Central Yharnam, which is really interesting. You find it outside of Old Yharnam, and here's what the note actually reads: "When the hunt began, the healing church left us, blocking the great bridge to Great Cathedral Ward, as Old Yharnam burned to the ground that moonlit night." Now again, like I said, this is something you find in Central Yharnam. It's not actually in Old Yharnam itself, which actually tells me straight away that someone actually got out of Old Yharnam. Now the second note reads like this: "The red moon hangs low, and beasts rule the streets. Are we left no other choice than to burn it all to cinders?" Now interestingly enough, you actually find this within Old Yharnam itself. You actually find it near the charred hunter set on a corpse. Now for me that's really interesting, and I think what we really should be doing is reading these, even though we can actually get them in chronological order in terms of the game. In terms of the timeline, obviously the second note was written first. So what does this tell us? Basically, here's my theory on it, and I think it's quite a common one. At some point, the plague of the beasts, the scourge of the beast, whatever you want to call it, infected Old Yharnam. Now I said infected because I think it is partly a disease, but more importantly, it happened when the red moon hung low, which is what the message tells us, which in my opinion means that these two events are definitely related in some way. I think that's too much of a coincidence to actually think of it as an accident or anything. I think that either the red moon hanging low causes the scourge of the beast, or vice versa, or there's a third element that actually causes both things. So obviously when that happened, the hunters who were in the city, or at least hunters around Yharnam, had to go in and take care of things. The plague of the beast obviously got out of control. Most of the residents probably turned into beasts, and there was no way to actually control it, so they had to actually block off the city, do what they can to actually defeat the beasts, but obviously it got out of control for them and they ended up burning the city to the ground. And as the different notes tell you, fire has always been a really important element in the fight against the beasts, and in this case it got so bad. I think that the fire started by the hunters, or the multiple fires, probably contributed as much to the destruction of Old Yharnam as the actual scourge and the beasts themselves. They probably just burned half the city to the ground, and at some point one of the higher ups in the healing church probably just realized this is not going to end well for anybody. Just let them finish what they can, and then leave the city to its own devices, so to speak. Now, what we don't know, and what I find most interesting, obviously because we don't know it, is what precipitated the events to the actual scourge occurring. Now, there's different theories on this. My personal theory is the fact that the healing church intentionally infected the residents of Old Yharnam with a specific strain of their old blood, and that strain is what caused ashen blood. And one of the interesting things about this is that, from the perspective of the ordinary Yharnam citizens, obviously this was a never-ending vicious cycle. because they took the old blood because of its healing properties, got addicted to it, wanted more. The healing church obviously took advantage of this and, decided to experiment on the citizens of Old Yharnam. And because of this, they got the Scourge of the Beast, and they had no other choice but to accept more blood, which just made things worse and worse. And that's what caused, the horrors that they ended up with. That's not the only theory on this, by the way. There's a guy on Reddit whose name was Terrified of Ghosts. He's got a theory on this, which basically is slightly different to mine. He thinks that the healing church actually poisoned the residents of Old Yharnam by poisoning their water supply, and he has a very interesting theory as to why. And he said that's when the healing church managed to actually ingratiate itself with the residents of Old Yharnam, because they managed to convince them, using their all special blood, that they have an amazing solution to their disease. And that's how the Scourge of the Beast began, because they started to take the old blood. But I think this could be true, and I'm not discounting it, it's just another theory. But personally, I don't think it's really necessary to go that far. I prefer to think that the blood itself is what caused the Ashen Blood problem, and that's what they were initially fighting. But then as they used more and more blood to deal with it, it just got out of control completely. But I'll put a link to Terrified of Ghost Theory in the description, so you guys can have a read and decide for yourself. So in terms of the actual gameplay right now, I'm actually skipping a lot of the Beast, because I just don't think it's necessary. I said it before, you don't really need to fight most of these guys in a OneBro run, just because you don't really need that many souls, because you won't be leveling up. Now this bit is really interesting to me, because you'll notice a lot of the beasts here have red eyes. Now personally, I never realised what that. I see that guy has red eyes, but I never realised what this really signified until a guy called Redgrave discussed it in one of his videos. He has a really awesome channel, by the way. If you like Bloodborne and you like talking about lore, go to his channel. It's really, really good. And he basically talks about how poison is actually integral to the nature of the gameplay in Bloodborne and the actual lore itself, and the story of how things got so bad. Because he's basically talking about how when you're ingesting the old blood, you're slowly over time making, you're poisoning yourself, and it's that poison that actually ingratiates the Great Ones. They're attracted to the poison nature of your blood, and that's what actually, in some cases, I think, allows them to actually, have children with you, because in order for them to actually take advantage of your biology, your nature of your blood has to change, has to be poisoned. And that's why this continuous cycle of ingesting the old blood, the red moon coming down, because the Great Ones are suddenly interested in the area because they see poisoned or contaminated blood occurs, and because of that you get people turning into beasts, and this cycle goes on and on and again. And I think that's a really interesting explanation. I'll put a link to his video, and you guys can have a look at that. It's a really, really cool explanation about what's going on here. What I find really interesting actually about From Software games is how they use psychology of fear to actually draw you in and make you afraid. I think 90% of the difficulty in these games is actually in your head. I've played this game for over a year, and I can beat it with ease now. And obviously, if you play the game for over a year, that should happen, right? Unless you're completely useless. And I'm not great at video games, but I'm not completely useless. But what I find really interesting is that the first time I play it, a lot of the time I was actually more afraid of the enemies than I had to be. If I just sat back and thought about my tactics, stayed calm, stayed cool, I think I would have got through the games a lot faster than I actually do. It took me 50 to 60 hours to complete Bloodborne, and same with Dark Souls and same with Demon Souls, and it's pretty much the same formula each time. I mean, obviously Bloodborne has a more horror bent in terms of its artistry and its narrative, but still I think the same basic gameplay mechanics apply. But I think the beauty is that the developers managed to psych out the gamers. They managed to put us into such a tense state of being that we psych ourselves out and end up playing the game thinking the game's difficult and making it much harder for ourselves. But I could do a whole video about that. It's really interesting the way these games are designed, you know, just to, you know, put you into such a negative frame of mind. Sorry. So this guy's going to jump out of there in a second. Here he comes. So that freaked me out the first time. And it's just this kind of thing. Constant surprises, constantly not knowing what's going to come next. That puts you into that negative frame of mind. It's really, really cool the way they do that. It's great game design. So I'm going to open up a shortcut in a minute, right at the top of these stairs. And that'll actually lead us back to the beginning area of Old Yharnam and the actual lamp. And when I get there, I'll actually, you know, upgrade my... Well, not upgrade anything right now. I'll probably just buy some blood vials and antidotes and something to prepare for the boss fight. And you'll notice right at the top of these stairs there's also some fire paper, which is going to be really useful. It's past the actual shortcut door itself. You're going to need this for the Vicar Amelia fight. I never use them for the Bloodstarved Beast, I just don't have to. Okay, so we're back again. I'm going to head down the stairs now and probably skip past most of the enemies because I just don't need to fight them. You'll notice I've actually got some antidotes as well, again preparing for the boss fight. You know, the Bloodstarved Beast is quite an aggressive boss and she ramps it up as she goes along, but she's not really that difficult once you really know how to do it. You know, it's pretty much the same with every single boss in the game. But she's really, you know, one of the easy ones in my opinion anyway. The only thing that makes the boss fight difficult is the fact that you need antidote because she poisons you. And, you know, some people call that a bit cheap. And, you know, I can see what they're saying. You know, it's just difficulty for the sake of difficulty. But, you know, I just enjoy these games for the sake of trying to figure out how to beat these, you know, enemies and the bosses. And I think that's cool enough as it is. Alright, so here we go. So yeah, like I said, this boss has 3 phases. In the first phase, I keep my long axe on. And then what I do is I wait for her to attack, or I go towards her, move to the left side, and use my charged R2 attack to inflict a lot of damage. And like you just saw that, it does a lot of damage. And all you have to do for the first phase is just keep doing that. You're going to find a couple of times she's going to, you know, do a very, very, you know, long charged attack, and she's going to jump past you and you'll lose your focus on her, but just, you know, quickly turn around and get it back again. It's not really anything to worry about. Such a cool enemy, the Bloodstarved Beast. I really like the way it's designed. So I think she's gonna, yeah, so when she rolls like that, she's moving to a second phase. Now the only difference here is that she moves a bit quicker and her attacks will deal poison damage. Now, as far as I'm concerned, your tactic should still be the same though. Just keep dodging out to the left side and, you know, just keep wailing on her with a charged R2 attack. Be careful of her combos though. At this level, you know, at the OneBro level, you are really probably gonna die if she catches you in one of those combos, so be careful. Now she's moved into stage 3 now, and you know that because she's exuding poison from her body. And this is when she inflicts poison every time you get close to her, which is a real pain in the ass, which is why you need the antidote. But make sure you actually change your axe to the short form now, because she'll move too fast for the charged attack. You just won't get a chance to do it. So make sure you actually keep an eye on your poison bar as well, because it will, you know, ramp up as you're near her. So every once in a while, keep moving back. If you get poisoned like I just did, just, you know, take one of your antidotes and carry on. But make sure you stay away from this big AoE attack, because that will set you into poison mode straight away. So move back every time she does that. But again, move to the left, keep the small axe on, and just keep, you know, wailing on her as you go along. Take your time, there's no need to rush this, you know, that's the worst aspect of this. If you look at me, I've only used a couple of vials so far, and I've almost killed her. So it's no problem at all really. Yeah, don't miss her like I did, that's just a waste of stamina. I think that's it. Okay, not too difficult, just one try to do that. Alright guys, thanks a lot for watching again, and I'll see you next time.